Hello and welcome back to the Cozy Club, my friends. As always, it is a beautiful day for some DSA, and it's even a little bit more beautiful as we've got some awesome Oceanic characters within Disney Sorcerer's Arena. As you guys know, I'm a big lover of the Oceanic faction, so with them all coming and diving into the game, let's go ahead and look at every single one of their kits, exactly what they do well within their Oceanic team. And then also, I want to look at the offense stats, the speed stats, so we can look at the strongest Oceanic characters and the fastest. By the end of this guide, hopefully, you'll have a better understanding of how Oceanics work as an entire faction. And if you guys like this guide and how it's laid out, let me know and we'll definitely do other guides just like this. Now, I just got my hands on Maui yesterday, August 1st, and I was able to test him out for hours and hours and know exactly how well he is and how well he works with the other Oceanic characters. With Maui, we finally have an Oceanic lead, and like always, we've never seen a pure one faction team take over the meta. Like Frozen, they have a hybrid team. You don't see a full Frozen team often. Kingdom and so on. Oceanic is going to be the same. Altogether, if you only have Oceanic characters, yes, they are very strong and can take out a lot of teams, but you do want to throw in some hybrid ones. We'll take a look at the teams you want to use and some other stuff later on in the guide, but let's go ahead, let's jump right into it and start with Captain Jack Sparrow. So Jack Sparrow is the OG Jack of all trades. He has very even offense, even speed, and he's just going to be able to offer a lot, and he doesn't really rely on other people. He does what he does well, and I'm excited that he's kind of finding his place again within these teams. Now, I'm not picking to use him a lot with my Oceanic team that I'm using to take on the top metas right now, but Jack Sparrow does a lot, and especially under tactics. Now, with tactics, Jack can go ahead and call a character to assist every single time. It's a low chance without it, but with tactics, of course, you'll be calling plenty of heroes to assist. Also, Jack has a 2-character charm, which is incredible, and especially under tactics as well. You're going to be seeing a lot of characters under your control, especially to start the battle. Lastly, he's got a constant AoE that's going to be refreshing the cooldowns with his passive, and he doesn't do a lot. He does have the highest offense stat in all of the Oceanic characters, but it's not overwhelming amount of damage going out on the enemy team. He just has a lot of different things to offer. Of course, in the top left, you guys will see my stone recommendations. And for Jack Sparrow, I'd say an offense stone or a speed stone is going to be the way to go. Speed stone is going to get you to be able to get that charm out a little bit faster. However, an offense stone, you'll be bombarding the enemy on top of a high offense stat already. So you're going to see the most bang for your buck on the offense in that category. But Speed Stone is generally the way to go with Jack. Now let's just go ahead and go to all the captains. And the next captain up is going to be the new captain, Captain Gantu. And you guys know I love my Papa Gantu. He's incredible. The amount of damage that this character can put out is insane. And now that Maui is here as a tank, to take a lot of the damage, to let Gantu build up those charges, build up that offense, and lay out the heavy damage. I'll be focusing on this a little bit later, but Gantu's build is going to be incredible, especially when paired with both a speed or a offense stone. Now, a speed stone could be nice to get things out a little bit faster, but I prefer my Gantu to have an offense stone and have that hybrid tank feeling. He'll be getting a huge AoE slow out there if he does have tactics, which is something interesting about all these Oceanics. It's kind of who do you give tactics to? And one thing that's not mentioned enough is he's got some very high tenacity. You'll see Anna do her AoE offense down, and everybody's getting the debuff, except Papa Gantu just kind of brushes it off the shoulder and moves on. He's got high tenacity that's going to allow him not to have that offense down, not to have these other debuffs that would cripple him a bit as a character, and that's one very nice touch about the Captain Gantu. Moving on to the last captain, that's Captain Hook, and Hook is absolutely excellent with tactics. Here in just a bit, I'll talk about who to give tactics to and who's going to benefit the most out of tactics. A lot of tactics should be on the field with both Captain Gantu and Cobra Bubbles, but there are heroes that you're going to really want to decide who benefit the most with having tactics on them early on. Now, Captain Hook is going to have a very solid basic attack that does some pretty strong damage. He's got high single target damage, both with Wendy's gift and again his basic. He's got a mass assist when he does have tactics, which can absolutely delete an enemy if used properly. And then lastly, he grants haste and turn meter to his fellow Oceanic members. Now, one thing about Captain is his health is a little bit on the low side, so he does seem to die pretty easily, but the rest of his stats are somewhat decent. And he just got that new buff that he's very, very effective against shields. I've seen him put out 12,000 damage plus on people with those hero shields, which again, as we talked about in the fast pass yesterday, is very important for the upcoming meta that's going to be very focused around shields and evasion. All right, now let's spend a second to look at the weaker characters for just a very quick second. These are going to be the characters in the Oceanic realm that don't really have a spot. Yes, Tinkerbell got a little bit better, but her and Ariel just don't seem to find their place within the Oceanic faction. Ariel does have a decent kit. However, I just can't seem to find use with her. However, in mid-game and early in-game, and if you're not looking for the top meta spots, Ariel can be a great substitute for Maui before you get him. Now, looking at Tinkerbell, she's going to have the lowest stats, all except speed compared to Ariel and the rest of the Oceanics. She's got some speed turn meter reduction, which is nice on her basic. She does grant shields and evade, which is a decent thing to offer with her new buff. But again, it's just not doing enough to fit her in a spot and honestly get her out of the FD tier range. Now, Tinkerbell might get another boost as Peter Pan does come eventually into the meta. I think that's the next Oceanic character we will see, but it might be some time as we just got tons of Oceanic love. We went from 5 usable characters in the Oceanic faction to now 10 usable characters, which was a nice buff to the Oceanic realm altogether, and I'm excited to see who else they do bring out. We've got Finding Nemo, Pirates of the Caribbean, Peter Pan, lots of things to offer. Now that I think about it, Peter Pan might be mythical or Oceanic, but at the end of the day, Oceanic's gonna be a very strong faction for times to come ahead. All right, now let's dive into the next hero, Ariel. And Ariel was a very solid hero, and she was on a lot of the promotional materials when it did come out. Right now, she has a lot of synergy with Slow on her basic. She does have a very high damage spec, and her Purge is a nice thing when going up against frozen teams. Now, Triton's Boom is a great debuff that if it could go out a little bit faster would be even better. For y'all that don't know, is going to be a 30% offense increase and a 30% speed meter increase. On deal damage, they also inflict slow when they have Triton's Boom. However, again, she's just not fitting over the other Lilo and Stitch and Moana characters to earn her spot on a meta Oceanic team. Davy Jones. Now, I've wanted Davy Jones to be in the meta for such a long time, and I was hoping with these new Oceanics, he would skyrocket from his spot. He's still missing a few things to make him absolutely meta, but he's certainly got a lot better. So some of the things that Davy Jones does well and shines well is he's got that huge first special that does a silence and a lot of damage on the enemy. Now with Maui, he's protected even more with shields, so I'm thinking he can stay alive a bit more. Where he really lacks is his passive Dead Man's Chest, and also his minions need a little bit of a touch-up. Now, he's got his unique black spot that does some great damage, and it's seeing more and more use now that matches are taking a lot longer. Matches used to be very short within DSA, but now that there's time to get these things out there, Black Spot has risen a bit in the debuff category. Now, for Tower and other things, his summonable units are great, but they just don't do anything, and with all of the AoEs that are currently in Disney Sorcerer's Arena, you're not going to see these units live more than one turn, most likely. He's got very high offense, incredible speed, but again, he's just missing a little something. And for how much it takes to unlock Davy Jones, it just doesn't seem like he's going to fit the spot. Now, there's 2 ways to put your stones on Davy. You can put an offense stone on him, give him a hero upgrade, and then get some crazy damage on that first turn, or you can go ahead, capitalize on his already fast speed, put a speed stone on him, and make sure that he gets that out a little bit faster. Now let's move on to the next hero, and that's Cobra Bubbles. And now we've got a lot of Cobra Bubbles fans on the general Discord, on the Cozy Club Discord, and within the Twitch, guys. Cobra is doing some nasty things no matter what team he's on. He's one of the most plug-and-play Oceanic characters, right there with Captain Jack Sparrow, and he is the Shadow God. Y'all have seen it. You've seen all the suitcases flying at the opponent, packing them and sending their bags home back to where they came from. You've seen it on stream. I've seen up to 6 Cobra Bubbles throwing their suitcases, and the damage is spectacular. A great way to counter Dash's charges, and overall a very solid hero to put Peter Pan's shadow on. Now, something with Cobra that people don't read into is he does have interactions with both helpful and harmful effects on the enemy. Depending on what the enemy has, he does a different cooldown to one of his specials. So it's good to kind of track your specials as you're using Cobra. Look at what you need to come up next. Most likely it's going to be his second special, and use a basic on a harmful effect to lower that cooldown. Now, he does inflict slow with his basic, silence and intimidate with his special, and intimidate is seeing more and more use. Absolutely essential when going up against Ana or Dash and slow that speed meter turn that is going out there quite often. He also removes 35% speed turn meter. He's a cleanser. He grants haste and attack up. And on top of all of that, he has a passive turn meter gain when his fellow Oceanics get hit. Bubbles is an essential character to the Oceanic faction. He's definitely one of those characters that you have to stop, strategize, and think when you are using him, because he's got a lot of things going on within his kit and a lot of versatility when you're using him. Now, an Offense Stone is great with all those Peter Pan shadows that you have throwing out there, and it's also good to see his suitcase land up to 6,000, 7,000 damage, but speed is also a way to go on Bubbles, as you can get the Intimidates out there faster, his second ticket move out there a little bit faster, or in general, get things going. Now, I don't have speed on mine, mainly because he's got that passive turn meter grant to himself anyway, and so offense is making more sense for me on Bubbles, but again, you can't go wrong with speed or offense. All right, now it's time to talk about someone we don't have maxed out. No one in DSA knows the max potential of this little blue alien. However, he's looking very strong early on. Now, first of all, he's the defense down captain of the Oceanic crew. He puts out a mass amount of defense down on one character, which helps Gantu synergy and other synergies within the Oceanic faction. He feeds constant turn meter to himself. He's also kind of to himself in general. He doesn't rely on anyone else. He doesn't need anyone else to do his job well when in an Oceanic team. Now, he's got an incredibly high critical chance rate, which is going to stack well with both of his abilities and his basic. And in general, Stitch has some incredible speed at 120, high offense, good health. Overall, Stitch is going to be essential probably for the Oceanic teams come the later T7 7-star Stitches. Now, I like to capitalize on his already fast speed with another Speed Stone. However, Offense Stones do make sense on Stitch if you want him hitting some massive damage. I'm excited to see exactly how Stitch falls within the meta as a plug-and-play character and on Oceanic teams, but he should counter both Gantu and Dash very nicely, and even Manicore, which Manicore doesn't need too much countering right now, but he's great against the charge mechanic. Got some solid stats, and I'm excited to see more Stitches out there in the arena. All right, Cozy Club, let's move on to the heroes you most definitely want to hear about, and that's the two newest heroes, both Maui and Moana. We've gotten plenty of testing with Moana, both on the Twitch stream and off of it, but Maui is going to take even more. But in my initial testing, guys, Maui is absolutely insane. He's got incredibly high health. His invincibility is something that we haven't seen before with both Taunt and Invincible. He just sits there, sucks up all the damage, while these other Oceanic characters that need a little time and a little bit of a delay to get their kits up, like Gantu, it gives them time to lay out the punishing AoEs. And overall, this is the tank that Oceanic faction needed. He's got some bonus damage against Taunt. He grants Moana turn meter, which when we get to Moana, I'll talk about her, but her wave special is absolutely crippling and can do some intense damage the more Oceanics you have out there. So getting Moana a turn even faster is going to be advantageous. He has an AoE stun, which we've talked about. I'll show some footage right here of this AoE stun. Absolutely bananas, completely freezing an entire team with tactics on him. He is the premier tank, obviously, for the Oceanics, but I am curious to see how he does on a more plug-and-play level with some other characters in DSA. Now, for Maui Stones, I recommend putting a Speed Stone on him when you're fighting some of the better, faster teams in DSA. It does take some time to get these Oceanics going. They're a bit slow, which we'll touch on, but you'll want to get Bubbles' haste and tactics up on Maui so that he can get the biggest AoE out there as possible. His shield lead is a very nice touch. You can see here the incredible amount of shields that you start out in battle. It's going to synergize well with Moana's kit. Hero will be giving even more shields to this team, and they're going to be one tanky team to take down once you have this tank. For the last character, let's move on to Moana. And Moana has been a ton of fun to play with and probably one of my favorite offensive heroes in this game. Both her and Gantu can do incredible AoE damage, and let's look at what Moana does well. Moana has one of the most, right out the bat, one of the most crazy basic attacks. Now, if they're slow on the enemy, she'll hit the enemy twice, but I've seen this basic hit up to 7,000 damage. If you get crits for both of them, we're looking about 14,000, 13,000 damage on her basic. She has that huge AoE that we've talked about. does a lot more damage, and it does start on a cooldown. However, if you get upgrade to her with Hero, then you use Maui's taunt, giving her another turn, you can get this wave out there very fast, and these damages you put out are crazy. Now, if she does kill someone and manage to kill someone early, she gains an extra turn, doing even more damage with that basic attack. She can call assist, and then she has Lotso's entire special factor built into her passive. Now, when her turn starts, she does land a taunt on one of the random enemies on the field. However, I noticed this can be a little bit of a nuisance, because if this goes on someone like Elsa and you completely take off Elsa and she's got her glacial armor up, you're stuck just attacking Elsa over and over. So there is a little bit of a con to that, but it's nice to get around those Kristoffs and get around those other characters. She's got very high offense, great speed stats, and overall one of the best Oceanic characters within the faction. So as I said earlier, slow is huge for this team, as slow and defense down build a lot of synergy within the Oceanic faction. However, I find it funny because with both Hero and Shan Yu leads out there, the Oceanics are going to be a little bit on the slow side. So that's why Hero is going to be a great hero to have with the characters of the Oceanic faction, because he'll be able to speed up the process of getting them going. Now, luckily, they can't do too much damage to you without Bubbles getting that passive turn meter up, and then you can use that second special that Bubbles has to concentrate on a hero with not a lot of health. Let's say Maui's got hit a lot, you can give him that tactics and all that turn meter to Maui, because he's going to have low health, boost him up, and then you have tactics and speed turn meter on Maui. Now, it is interesting, who do you use tactics on? Now, looking at a lot of the characters, they can all benefit. Really, any character within Disney Sorcerer's Arena can benefit from tactics. But looking at the Oceanics, these are the ones that I recommend. The obvious two choices are going to be both Gantu or Maui, both the tanks in the Oceanic faction. Gantu's nice because you can get him tactics and speed up and start that train rolling, and then you can do his AoE slow, get slow out to all the enemies, and start from there. Or if you want to go ahead and give tactics to Maui, you can obviously get that tank and huge AoE stun out. Now, that does take a little bit time to build up, but he's the obvious choice, with Gantu probably following second. Hook is a great option because he can call everybody to assist, which is a nice touch, or Captain Jack Sparrow with his double charm. There's just so much strategy with the Oceanic faction, and that's why I like them the most. Now, when it compared to Frozen, you had that same routine you were running every single time with Frozen. Kingdom is a little bit different each time you go into battle, but you've got that same kind of you use this ability, then that one. With the Oceanic crew, because of how they work, it's really a lot of tactics and strategy that you're going to use with your tactics to be able to pull off a victory. And that's one of the reasons why I love them. Now, let's look at both their offense and their speed all together. I want to compare them so that you guys can see the two most important statistics on where they end up. Now, first, starting with offense, you can see that Captain Jack Sparrow is going to be number one with 1,647. Unfortunately, his abilities don't really do a lot of damage. Yes, you can get a little bit of damage going with his AoE, but I put a star next to the big, heavy damage dealers in the Oceanic faction. Now, Davy Jones matches Captain Jack Sparrow with the 1647, and you'll see that in battle, he does some insatiable damage on the enemy. Moana, with her wave ability, her paddle smacking, her basic, is some of the biggest hits that we've seen in DSA and obviously in the Oceanic faction. Stitch, we're seeing more and more hit harder and harder as he grows in both star and power level, but Stitch is an obvious MVP for the offense category. And Cobra, Bubbles, and Gantu both throw offense in different ways. Cobra's great with obviously the Peter Pan Shadow that we've talked about already, and Gantu will continually put on 8,000, 10,000, 5,000, whatever it might be, continues to put out heavy AoE damage with no cooldowns. So even though Gantu's way down there at the 1,161, his whole kit is built around charges and offense-heavy abilities. It's important not only with this team, but also in all DSA to look at the abilities with their stats. You can't just strictly go off stats, because you're going to be noticing a big difference, like someone like Big Baby with incredible offense compared to someone else who doesn't have as high as offense like Gantu, but his kit is built around it. Now, Maui's got some pretty low offense. Obviously, they couldn't give him too high of offense because he's got so much working for him that would be a little bit on the unfair side if he got a tick up in that offense. And Tinkerbell coming in last with 960. No shocker there. All right, let's go ahead and jump on over to the speed category. It's important to know with this slower faction who's the highest and really where they're going to fall in their turn meter gain. Now, Cobra at 106, don't really pay attention to that, as obviously we've talked about it. He's going to get that passive turn meter. Looking at Stitch at 120, he's the fastest Oceanic character on top of a passive that's going to feed more and more speed to him. Davy Jones at 118, we've talked about that silence. Moana's at 114. Maui surprised me at 112. For a big heavy set guy, I was surprised he ended up at 112. Now, it's important you capitalize on his speed because he's got that great AoE stun, and then his first spec can steal turn meter and give it to a random ally. Now, Jack Sparrow's at 112, Hook at 105, Gantu at 104. So numbers that aren't going to be jumping off the charts, but that is why here in a second when we talk about recommended teams, I'm going to be having some other plug-and-play heroes to beef up the speed on this slow faction. All right, so we've talked about all their kits. We've talked about the offense and the speed. Now, let's talk about some teams to use them in. These are going to be obviously the meta teams to use them in. And right now, I haven't found a full Oceanic team that they can kill complete frozen hero dash teams and things like that. Now, that might change when Stitch gets leveled all the way up. We might be able to use him. But the first recommended team that I'm going to say is Heroes, Cobra Bubble, Gantu, Maui, and Moana. That's going to be the staple 5 that you're going to be seeing a lot within DSA. Make sure you've got Maui in the back there with a taunt to keep the hits off Gantu in the top right. In the middle, I like to run Hero. In the back right, I like to run Cobra. And the top left, Moana. This is working the best for me. Some other teams that you might see is this exact team with Gizmo Duck in place of Maui. If you don't have your hands on Maui, Gizmo Duck is great to lower the cooldown on Moana. Something I like to do is get the upgrade over to Moana as quick as possible and then use Gizmo's taunt ability, lowering cooldowns again on Moana, and you can get that wave out there on the second turn, which can hit some crazy damage. Now, we'll have a lot of testing to do. We just got our hands on Maui, so over this next week, I'll be testing them a lot on stream with Captain Hook, with Captain Jack Sparrow, Maui, Moana, other plugin characters other than the Lilo and Stitch or other than the common characters that you see. I'm excited for us to find a complete hybrid team that should be able to take out anything it faces. As of right now, with the team that I mentioned with Hero, Bubbles, Gantu, Maui, Moana, I'm able to take out any team that's thrown at me except the faster ones. Now, I love running Maui's shield lead against most teams. However, if it's a team that's strictly built for speed, I did have some difficulty fighting these super fast teams. Now, with a hero lead and then giving that right on over to Maui for both the taunt and the big dropping whale for the stuns, that's the way to go to take out the faster teams. One thing I do want to say is right now, if you could just blow through Maui and go past that health threshold, he's not even able to get invincibility up. So if you have Zerg or some of the other stronger hitting heroes and you focus Maui, you can just kill him before that pops up. Now, this might be a bug or it might be working as intended, but this is going to be who you want to concentrate when facing the Oceanics, is try to kill Maui very early on. Now, Hero is the obvious plug-and-play character here, but I'm curious to see how Stitch does do in this spot. Eventually, a Stitch, Gantu, Maui, Moana, and Bubbles team should cause a lot of havoc on the arena, but again, hybrid teams seem to be taking over more and more when you look at the meta teams. So my last bit of advice, Cozy Club, is make sure you go in and look at all of the abilities for every single Oceanic toon. They talk to each other a lot. There's a lot of synergy within this team, and you want to understand them to the best of your ability. They're not like some of the other teams out there that just slap out damage or do other things. Make sure that you know exactly what all these passives are doing because they interact with each other, and that's going to be the best way to have the best chance to do well with the Oceanic faction. All right, guys, so if you want to see a lot of testing with these Oceanics, again, catch me on my Twitch channel down below. We're always going Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays. We have a lot of fun on the Twitch stream, so I will see you guys there. We'll be testing out Maui a ton tonight, so I'm excited to get that going more and more. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on over, checking out this amazing faction in Oceanics. I'm excited to use them more and more in Arena. And just thanks for coming by. A big thank you to these Patreons right here. Without your support, I could not do it. And I enjoy every single video chat we have and our chat in the Discord Patreon family. And until next time, Cozy Club, stay cozy, my friends.